Hello and welcome to our Coffee and Cloud series event here this afternoon, AI Usage Policies 101. I'm Alan Falcon, CEO of Cumulus Global, and I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us here today, whether you're part of the live session or watching this on demand. Before we get into the meat of our quick session here this afternoon, a reminder that this Coffee and Cloud series is one of several resources we have within our resource center where you have the ability to read, watch, and explore in more depth the topics we talk about here today, as well as other topics relevant to IT and cloud for small and mid-sized organizations. The audio is muted for the session to prevent any background noise from getting in the way. If you have questions at any time, there's a Q&A window in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. That panel also includes a chat tab, which we don't really check, but more importantly, a docs tab. If you click there, you'll notice we've got links to some blog posts and some ebooks that relate to the topic we're talking about here today, which is AI Usage Policies 101. And so with that housekeeping out of the way, and you're welcome, you being welcomed here, let's dive right in. And the first question we often get asked is, why should we have an AI usage policy? And it really comes down to two things you want to balance, guidance and guardrails. Most people think first about the guardrails. How do we protect our business, our data, our customers, make sure things are secure, private, we're not violating any compliance. Chances are your business falls under state or federal regulations of some privacy for information privacy. Certain industries obviously have it, whether it's PCI DSS for credit people who process credit card transactions, HIPAA if you're in the medical field, or ancillary fields that support medical offices. SEC rules, FINRA rules for financial advisors and brokers. The list goes on and on of what you need to protect. And the challenge with AI is making sure that the data being brought into the AI models, whether they're secure and private or public, isn't going to create accidental access and disclosure, that you're not using confidential or protected data to train AI models without permission. The guidance part is really that top-down direction that talks about why, when, and how you want AI to be properly used within your business or your organization. And this is key because it gets into certain things such as, in our company, even if we use AI to help us write or refine, nothing goes out without human intervention, where we check it against our voice and against our own internal policies on how we present information and how we share information publicly. And so you can make those decisions and decide. It also gets into where you sit and how rigid you feel you need to be with respect to ethics and morality use of AI as the power becomes greater and greater, and depending on the nature of your organization, what you do and what you work with. And so really guidance and guardrails. And so today we'll dive a little bit deeper and talk through some of the components of each of those. So when we talk about guidance, we're talking about what are your core principles, right? This is, as I mentioned, it's how do we want to use it? Is it a tool? Is it, are we looking to replace people? Are we looking to help people work more effectively and get their jobs done more easily and more efficiently, improve their productivity and their ability to succeed? Are we using it as a learning tool? What do we think are the ethical boundaries and guidelines we need in place to make sure our use of AI doesn't get out of hand? And that can be the way we treat our clients and our employees, our employee data, our client data, how we manage our internal intellectual property. Are we concerned, given the nature of our business and the data we work with, of implicit bias that might be built into the models or the tools, or that we may be creating implicit bias as we train our own models? Things of that nature. Core principles is sort of big picture and can be pretty general in nature. Then we get into the permitted use cases. This is really the when you want people to use it. And it's both when do you want to use it internally, and when do you want to use it and when it's allowed to be done for external or client use, where you're doing work for a client or work that's going to be given to a client or working with client data. And that really gets into, how you want it to be used. So for example, you can have guidelines, for example, that say, hey, look, you can use this to, spell check, tone check, grammar check content. We can use it. We're running, Gemini within the Google Workspace ecosystem here within Cumulus Global. So we can build using Notebook LM, we can build private learning models. That's a permitted use case. We have rules about what data that belongs to clients, for example, we can put into those models, even though they're private and secure, for what we're going to generate. And so the third aspect of permitted use cases, what are the specific tools you want people using? And part of that by the guardrails is the prohibited use cases, which is also what not to use, right? So your core principles can talk about how we're only going to use, demonstrably secure models and tools that don't use our data or our clients' data to train. And that might also be meaning, sort of implying that any tool has to be purchased. Even though not all tools you pay for have that level of security, you need to still check that. And I've covered some of the ethical AI principles and practices as far as bias, representing AI work as, or AI augmented work as such, not presenting it as your own original work. These are things all come into ethics that you want to make sure that if you're working with clients or even within your business, that if someone learns or is aware that AI is involved in it, they're not feeling misled or that you're misrepresenting yourself or your business or the work you're doing. And the final piece of guidance is what are the employees' responsibilities when it comes to use of AI? Sort of following the rules, bringing up issues. There's a pretty broad scope there. And what training are you going to provide or ask employees to seek so they understand the AI tools you're using, they understand the why, the when, the how of what's happening, and they also understand how to, how to use the tools, how to apply it, and how to apply your policies in their workflows. And really, when you start getting into defining those internal use cases, we're saying, hey, when we are working on a proposal, this is where we're going to use AI for wording or for formatting or presentation or graphics generation. That's cool. You want to make sure employees understand their responsibility in doing it properly, as well as making sure they're trained so they know how to do it properly. And they know not only the mechanics of the tool, the desired outcome, but the guidelines you put in place as well. On the guardrail side, prohibited use cases, what you do not want people to be using AI for. And this could be final documents. It could be using AI to do certain types of research about people. It could be, putting, even a prohibited use case is getting into saying, do not put company internal data into public LMs or public tools where other people could accidentally or knowingly have access to it, or where you're training the model, right? And so that could be a prohibited use case. We see other prohibited use cases go into workflows saying, no, we need this work to be human element. We don't want AI generating the output or contributing for certain things. Next, you have to look at where you stick with, where you stand with compliance, both governmental regulation and industry standards and industry regulation. And so, industry regulation is, PCI DSS for credit card data, FINRA rules for data privacy for investment advisors. Those are industry guidelines and compliance requirements. SOC 2 and from the AICPA, that's an industry guideline. Regulatory is when you start getting into the California Consumer Protection Act, GDPR if you've got clients in Europe, PII rules. 23 states, I believe, right now have their own set of rules about what personal identifiable information you need to protect and what that means. It goes on and on. And so you have to make sure that the tools you're using and the way you use them doesn't put you in violation of the regulatory and industry guidelines. It's interesting, we've gotten calls from businesses worried that, hey, our CFO wanted to try out, they went into this public model, and they uploaded all of our financial data for the last 5 years to see if it could help draft a presentation for the board. It's like, oops, your CFO just accidentally, unintentionally took all of your internal financial information for 5 years and used it in a public free model. That data's out there. If someone looks for it or looks for data like that, it could show up. Not a good thing. So you want to make sure that you are protecting the data. You want to make sure you want to have rules about securing AI related data and systems. And this is understanding, again, what they're doing with the data. Is it unique? Is it, do you have control who can view it? Do you have control who can access it? Do you have control who can edit or change the data or remove data? Is it training or not training? That's a whole separate question. And that's looking at every tool you use and understanding how it handles the information and how you need to manage it. Stepping back, that creates the need for data governance. Do you understand what information is public, is shareable, is private, is protected? Do you have a way of identifying confidential information, managing the sharing? And this is good to have data governance for your information anyways. It's just more important with AI. And a perfect example in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, when you share a document, the default permissions is anyone with the link. Microsoft Copilot isn't anyone. And so if you're not explicitly sharing sensitive information, then there's a chance that information can become visible to someone who shouldn't see it. They may not know it's there, but they may prompt Copilot in a way that Copilot feels the information's relevant to the query or the prompt and shares it. And so you definitely want the data governance, and that goes into not only knowing what level of visibility data should have, but who should have access to it and how you monitor to make sure it's not being inadvertently exposed. And certainly, in the medical field with HIPAA, rules from the Security Exchange Commission, ethics standards for lawyers and accountants, all of these come into play. You have financial, potential legal liability, and certainly reputational risk if you breach data. And AI is another potential channel for data breach that we have to worry about. And that's, in a sense, unfortunate, but on the other hand, it's necessary and it's something we should be expecting is happening anyways. And then the third is vendor and third-party tool management. And this is the whole life cycle. How do you identify potential tools and vendors? How do you vet them? What's the expectation? How do you validate their security? As we talked about the important need for that, as you can see up on the slides. And how do you manage them over time? How are you going to track updates and changes? And of course, vendor management gets into the financial and legal relationship as well. And what they commit to do for you and are they honoring it. So all of that comes into play. And you might think, gee, I'm a small business or I'm a 3-person or even a sole practitioner. That's a lot there, right? And it's a lot to think about. And it can hit you in so many ways. So for example, we often are, dealing with clients and vendors, and we can be in a group video meeting, Google Meets or Microsoft Teams, whatever, or Zoom, and the conversation can involve information and that's confidential or private to our client, or our own methods that we want to keep confidential. And if someone enters that meeting with a meeting assistant to help take notes, that's great, that's fine. But if that visitor to our meeting is using a note taker that's not secure, then it doesn't matter what my rules are per se, or directly that my tool is and how good my tool is. A third party now, or a participant in the meeting, is using an unsecure meeting assistant that may be using that data to train the content of that meeting to train, or putting it into a large language model or another tool where other people could inadvertently have access to it. And so, for example, when we look at the guardrails and what's in the policy, it's like, hey, our people know that if they see other meeting assistants join a meeting, that they ask, is that a paid and secured version of the tool that you're using? And if someone's like, no, or I'm not sure, then it's, hey, we're going to have to boot it out, or can you remove it from the meeting? We want to make sure we don't accidentally spill information that's supposed to be private. And so sort of an example. So there's a lot there, and I can see that for some of you, it might feel overwhelming given the size of your business and the resources you have. So the good news is we have something we can help you. So we're giving it away for free through the end of July. We have a template artificial intelligence usage policy. You're welcome to use the link on the slide or that QR code. It'll prompt you to identify yourself. You can download it. It'll It's in a PDF format. If you're interested in using it, feel free to let us know. We can provide it in a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word format for you to take and modify and use. It's a pretty comprehensive document. It is a sanitized version of actually what we're using in-house ourselves and what we've built. And so hopefully you find that useful. In our library, there's a second tool, which is just the outline of the table of contents of the document. You're feel free to download that and use that and fill that out on yourself. And of course, this is one of a whole series of AI-related resources we have. We have our AI landing zone, blog posts, ebooks, white papers, videos. The landing zone sort of is a hub with links to all of that content that we have. And it's part of our overall online library. And so feel free to think about what you want for your AI usage policy. By having the right guidelines and the right guardrails in place, you'll be in a good position to effectively manage your AI environment, the information in it, how it's being used, and the security and privacy of that information as it's appropriate. And you can build out your policy without having to start from scratch, because we're happy to share that template with you. If you have any questions along the way, or you want to talk about other issues related to AI, feel free to get in contact with us. An intro call, no cost, no obligation, with one of our cloud advisors is a great way to start. You can use the bit.ly code on the right-hand side of the screen for an intro call, or send an email to info@cumulusglobal.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, that's fine. My email's up on the screen as well. Feel free to send me a note. I don't have an assistant who screens emails, so I'll either answer you, or if I'm going to be busy, I may tap someone on my team to get back in touch with you and see if they can help, and we'll get going. So hopefully this has been, I know it's pretty quick. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so we'll probably go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully this has been helpful, and hopefully you find the sample, the template usage policy is a good way to start and get things going. The beautiful thing about having the usage policies is it really does ensure that you're protecting your business, your teammates, your employees, if you will, and your clients and all the data involved. We expect down the road that AI usage policies will be something that your cyber insurance companies and your general liability companies are going to be asking for from insurance, underwriting standpoint. And it just sets the stage for making sure that you're managing AI and it sort of doesn't get out of control. And not out of control in the sci-fi horror way, although that's always a possibility, but really out of control from a governance and a liability and a management standpoint. So you can show and demonstrate to your clients and other interested parties or folks who need to know that you are a responsible user of AI and that it's helping your business without putting them, your employees, or your business at risk. So again, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day and week. We'll get this video posted on the website generally should be by end of day tomorrow. We'll also share the related blog posts and ebook, as well as you've got the link to the template as well. So thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and hopefully you'll join us again soon.